Are here with your reading mini lesson for today. We're going to be looking at another day of point of view practice. I'm actually needing to be right here. We're going to be looking at point of view today. We're going to be reading half of a new read aloud. We're going to be revisiting what point of view is and the three different types. And then you will be filling out the page that I gave to you a couple days ago that has all the different read alouds that we've been looking at and telling the point of view and perspective of the book that we're going to start today. So if you don't already have that paper out, it's the one that looks like this, and it has all the different read alouds that we've had for the last several days. So I'm going to give you a second to get that out, and then we can go ahead and start our reading mini lesson. Remember from The King of the Sky, that was going to be in first person told by the boy. So we got to see kind of an inside scoop about the little boy's perspective on the pigeons and the race and his feelings about where he was and how he kind of didn't feel like he belonged. But we also could have switched over the perspective to another character. So we also could have had a first-person story like this, but through Mr. Evans, the old man. I want you to think about what could have happened in the story, or what do you think would have been talked about if the story was in first person from his point of view rather than the boys. So kind of brainstorm a little bit. What are some things that you think would have been told in the story if it was through the old man's eyes? What would we have learned more about? And then I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so the first thing that came to my brain, I don't know if it did for you, but I kind of thought that if we were to get The King of the Sky from Mr. Evans' point of view, I feel like we might have learned or understood a little bit more about his health issues. I think that if he was the one telling the story, he might have talked a little bit about maybe what was going on with him or how he was feeling about it. We might have gotten a little bit more of that grief or sadness feeling because he knew that he wasn't well, that he was really sick. So that was kind of my perspective and thought on if the point of view changed. Today, what you're going to do is I'm going to read half of this read aloud called The Village That Vanished. And your job today is to say what the narrator type is. Remember the POV, first person, third person limited, or third person omniscient. You need to pick one. And then the perspective is it a narrator that's focusing on one character? Is it a character that's in the book? Or is the narrator focusing on most of our main characters? So that's what you need to put in the perspective box. Now, I won't be upset if you don't do the evidence, but for those of you that like to kind of just have work done and get ahead, if you find a quote, a direct quote, or a sentence in the story that proves your point of view, feel free to jot it down. That way you have it done. You don't need to worry about the two boxes below. But I honestly think that you could probably fill out this whole top section next to The Village That Vanished. So POV, perspective, and a quote that proves that. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading our read aloud today. Again, it's called The Village That Vanished. You're going to notice that this story definitely takes place in a different location than what we're used to. The setting is drastically different than some of the books we've read, and you're going to kind of see a little bit about a different culture. So here we go. Young Abicanile waited, still as a bird, in the tall reeds that grew near the water's edge. A butterfly fluttered close by, but Abicanile, whose Yao name means listen, did not stir. She was listening to her mother's prayers. "O my ancestor spirits, O my grandmothers, O my father, sister spirits, hear me now in our need. I hear your ancestor voices singing in the grass, the trees. In the winds, the waters, I need your magic. Do not deny me now. Lend me and my children the secrecy of the crocodile below your waters. O my ancestor spirits, we need your magic now. Protect our village, keep us free." Abicanile watched her mother rise to her feet. Her tall, strong body was silhouetted against the red ball of the setting sun. As it sank swiftly behind the line of trees, she threw a flower offering into the twisting stream that flowed into the dark forest beyond. So again, we're already seeing some different culture, some different setting. Then her mother, whose name Jemail means upstanding, turning wearily home, Abicail followed several yards behind, carefully placing her feet in her mother's footprints. She knew why Jemail was praying so hard. They might have to leave their homeland, and soon. The slavers were coming. These are violent men from the north, her mother had told her. They come riding in swiftly on horseback, shooting their long guns, capturing unarmed farmers as they go. I'd like you to take a second to look at the clouds in this illustration. The illustrator does a really good job of kind of depicting and showing our character's fear through the clouds. And Abicail had heard that sometimes they took Yao children, too. Why do they pick on us? She had asked. We are a strong people and hard-working, Jemail had answered passionately. They want to sell our labor. Our people are put in chains and sold into slavery to foreign masters. It was known that if slavers came, they would begin by capturing those hunting alone or on guard far beyond the village. Then they would enter the village itself, and there would be no one who could oppose them. So far, Jemail had added, holding Abicail close, our own village has escaped because it is surrounded by forest, but slavers will find it soon enough. What can we do now? Abicail asked. I have a plan. If only the rest of our village will listen. Now Abicail wished she knew how to pray like her mother to help give her strength and ideas that could save their village. When Abicail and Jemail returned, the villagers had gathered together inside the circle of 7 huts that made up Yao. A lookout had just brought the news that slavers had captured people from the nearby villages. No one but he was left, he said, to warn Yao, for Yao's young hunters and distant guards must have been captured as well. Okay, so our kind of scenario here is Yao is the name of like their culture, their village, and they took a village that was close to here, but someone escaped and was able to come and warn them. So now they're kind of trying to figure out what to do to escape the people that are coming to take them. Yeah, one elder trembled. Our strong young men gone and no one to defend us. What are we to do? The villagers cried, looking about. Abicail saw that they were all just women and children, boys and old men. It was then that Jemail spoke up. I have a plan. May I speak? Aye, the elder said, waving her on. She stepped forward, tall and straight. We must retreat, disappear like smoke, she said with quiet force. What are you saying, Jemail? We are not magicians to disappear in a puff of smoke. Do not joke at such a time. I mean we must go into the woods, Jemail explained, destroying all traces of our village, so that the slavers will not know that we ever lived here. Then they will not follow us, not across the river, not even into the deep forest. And, she ended firmly, we must live there until they pass. Okay, so I want you to think about why is it such an issue for them that the only people left in their village are women and children? Okay, think about why that might be concerning to their group, why they're trying to come up with another plan. And then Jemail is kind of coming up with this idea that rather than fight, rather than defend, why don't we just almost trick them into making it look like we've never even been here? And our vocab word trace is coming back here in this book, destroying all traces of our village. They're trying to get rid of any tracks or noticings that they've been here before. Then Abicail's grandmother, Chimwala, whose name means stone, and who had remained as silent as one, spoke up. Yes, to protect our children, you must go swiftly and soon. And so it came about that all the families agreed to Jemail's plan and prepared to leave. They would take only what they could wear and carry. But when the villagers came around to help Chimwala, the oldest of the elders, she raised her voice one more. I am too slow and old to leave my home. I will remain with my house and our ancestors. The slavers will not take me, Am I not too old and mean? It is not said, the crocodile will not eat old wrinkled adder snake. No amount of arguments would move old Chimwala, for her nature was truly stone. Many tried to convince her, but to all these warnings she cackled, I will tell them that I am a witch. They will be so afraid of my magic powers that they will leave this old woman alone. So I think the author does a really good job of having a character here that provides some humor to a serious situation. The old woman here is so confident in herself, but also she's honest with herself. She's going to hold back the group. She's going to keep them from being able to get away at a fast pace. But she also knows that slavers don't want an elderly woman that doesn't do anything for them. So she's willing to kind of sacrifice herself for the betterment of the rest of the group. Yes, the villagers decided it would happen like that. To the slavers, it would seem that old Chimwala was just a hermit, living in a little hut deep in the forest. So the villagers were agreed. Then one puzzled person called out, in order to follow Jamile's plan, we must burn our village. But such a fire would burn Chimwala's hut down too. What will we do now? A scared child asked. Hearing this, Jamile knew she had not spoken clearly before. We must disappear like smoke, but not like real smoke from fires. That would attract the slavers' attention from afar. But how then? The most anxious elder asked. I have thought of the way, Jamile answered, smiling. Each family will have to take apart its own hut quickly, stick by stick, stone by stone, and bury it or scatter it in the woods. Many villagers gasped. Then one sensible woman suggested, we can still save some house poles to use as walking sticks. Then another said, or to use a tent sticks for our stay in the woods. Till only the hut of old Chimwala remains, said the oldest man, clapping his hands for them to get to work. All of the women and strong young girls quickly packed up their great cooking pots, too heavy for the long trek in the woods, and filled them with their most precious things. And then they buried them. One day they would dig them up again. And the old men and the young boys took the huts apart stick by stick and stone by stone, until it was empty space where they had once stood. Then everyone began to clear and rake the area, making it look as if the ground were tilled only for Chimwala's corn. So their plan here, their way of, quote, disappearing, isn't to burn everything down. It's not to get rid of it. But they're going to literally backtrack all of their steps that they did to create their village. They're basically just working backwards to make it look like they never were even here. Soon it seemed that Chimwala's hut had always stood alone like that, surrounded only by her vegetable garden and some corn rows, which are located right here. You can see some corn rows. The people stood back then, leaning on their hoes, their tears wetting the soil where their homes had rested, as the smell of freshly turned earth rose about them. But now it was Abicanile and Jamile's time to weep and say goodbye. Remaining firm, Chimwala embraced them, each in turn, saying only, I will stay here with the ancestors, and we will greet you together when you return. May that day be soon, whispered Abicanile and her mother, Jamile bowing before Chimwala. They left her and joined the waiting villagers. Might be kind of difficult to say goodbye, but they know that they're doing the best that they can here. And then the people of Yao walked away toward the forest, full of sorrow to be leaving the place where they had all been born. Looking back, they saw old Chimwala in her doorway, sitting as still and silent as a stone. I want you to think about why the author compares Chimwala to a stone. If you remember from previously in this book, her grandmother Chimwala means stone. So the author does a really good job here of comparing her to a stone because that's what her word means, her name means. And this is what's left. If you look at the picture, I mean, it looks like no one's here except for her. They don't have any evidence or trace that anyone else has lived here. Here's where we're going to stop. So I need you to go back to that page that you have with all of the books and all of the read alouds that we've been looking at for the last week. And here I need you to take some time to write what point of view do you think this is in, first, third limited, or third omniscient. Whose perspective does the narrator focus on? Is it through a character's eyes using words like I, me, my? Is it third person limited where they focus on one specific character? Or is it third person omniscient where we focus on more than one character in the book and we get multiple different perspectives? And then I need you to find a piece of evidence that proves that. So a direct quote that shows that it's either first or third. Okay? After that, you are more than welcome to put that paper back in your reading folder. Please don't turn this in. Please don't lose this. I will be checking this when we all come back from fall break, and we will be finishing the rest of that page as well when we come back, so don't lose it. Thanks, guys, for participating. Great job. And I believe after this will be independent reading block. Bye.